This episode is supported by LoopNet. LoopNet listed properties are 283% more likely to lease or sell. That's 283% more likely to find a tenant or buyer when listed on LoopNet. Help your commercial property be seen by the right audience at the right time in the right place. Be seen on LoopNet.
While the EU's competitiveness focus and Labour's proactive policies in the UK are very welcome, the political uncertainty in France poses significant risks. Investors will need to navigate these varied landscapes carefully, balancing the opportunities with the potential challenges ahead. The return to, in my view, to a normal real estate transactions market will probably take more time than initially anticipated or hoped for.
Hello and welcome to the REIT Report. I'm your host, Sarah Borgson-Keto. My guest today is Dominique Moerenhout, CEO of EPRA, the European Public Real Estate Association. Dominique is here to share his thoughts on the interplay between politics and commercial real estate today. Dominique, thanks so much for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. Always a great pleasure to see you and to join any EPRA and together with Nareit initiatives. Always nice to be here.
So, Dominique, 2024 is the global elections year. Can you comment on what you've been seeing so far?
Yes, of course. So 2024 is indeed the biggest election year in history. Roughly 50% of the world's population and over 50% of the global GDP will cast or have casted a vote this year. So that means 65 countries with an overall population of 4.2 billion people, including the wealthiest states, the poor, the despotic, and the most stressed. So a really unprecedented year we are experiencing in 2024.
And the last few months have seen a wave of election activity, specifically across Europe and the UK. Broadly speaking, how has that activity impacted the mood of commercial real estate investors in the region?
Yeah, it's been quite an eventful period, I would say. And while it's still early to anticipate its full impact, there is a lot to consider. On the one hand, the EU's new focus on competitiveness is expected to encourage investors by driving initiatives that boost economic growth and investment opportunities in the commercial real estate sector across Europe. Having said that, the Labour Party's victory in the UK and the rather unworkable cohabitation in France might have some counterproductive effects. So let me start with the UK first. So Labour's major victory shows a significant shift in public mood and policy direction. Labour plans to address the high cost of living in the UK, set out the planning and the rent reform plans, improve public services and ramp up infrastructure investment. For example, UK mid-cap stocks have following the election, with home builders among the top gainers due to Labour's pledge to build 1.5 million new homes in 5 years and restore mandatory housing targets. So they're also planning to establish a national wealth fund to support growth and clean energy initiatives, which could drive more investment into real estate and infrastructure projects. Labour's commitment to a stable policy environment, regulatory changes, and a new industrial strategy is overseen as they're aiming to provide more certainty around the business taxation, capping corporate tax at 25%, and driving investment from pension funds into UK markets. So this could significantly boost our industry given the current underinvestment in real estate overall over the last 2 years. Moreover, these planning reforms Labour is proposing are expecting to accelerate major infrastructure projects by redefining what is nationally significant. For instance, data centers might be reclassified as nationally significant infrastructure projects, making it harder for local authorities to block any development. They could, of course, also streamline the planning process, reduce red tape, and ensure faster delivery of housing and infrastructure projects. So this Labour's victory reflects a public demand for change and a new approach to governance. While there are still significant challenges ahead, there are also opportunities for businesses to adapt and thrive in the evolving environment. In this regard, as Labour seeks involvement from industries as key stakeholders to boost growth and achieve its ambitious goals, it is the role of the real estate sector to step in and take advantage of these goals goals related to the built environment and energy transition to advance their agendas. Additionally, the sector should also position itself as a strong ally for pension funds. On the other hand, Sarah, we have France with a quite different situation. The legislative elections resulted in no party securing an absolute majority, leading to a total political instability. So this could mean difficulties to pass significant legislation, possibly leading to another dissolution of the National Assembly or a snap presidential election in 1 year. We don't know. This instability is likely to result in policy stagnation, complicating France's economic and social landscape and hindering progress on relevant initiatives. The economic and social challenges in France, such as the pension system deficit, had another layer of complexity. The innovative solutions needed to steer the nation through difficulties require widespread support, which the current political climate makes totally improbable. So, in summary, while the EU's competitiveness focus and Labour's proactive policies in the UK are very welcome, the political uncertainty in France poses significant risks. Investors will need to navigate these varied landscapes carefully, balancing the opportunities with the potential challenges ahead. The return to, in my view, to a normal real estate transactions market will probably take more time than initially anticipated or hoped for.
And Dominic, are there other specific ways in which commercial real estate in Europe could feel the effects of political change?
Yeah, absolutely. So, leaving UK politics aside, recent EU elections have shown a shift towards right leaning parties, with socialists, Greens, Liberals, and the far left losing seats. The Greens, for example, lost 25% of their seats in the EU Parliament. This shift will influence the main policy themes in the next mandate. Previously, the European Green Deal dominated, aiming to make the EU climate neutral by 2050, which brought intense legislation like the EU taxonomy, SFDR, CSRD, etc. With the new political landscape today, the focus is expected to shift towards, as I mentioned already earlier, competitiveness. So this will likely mean cutting red tape, stimulating international trade, boosting investments, and creating a business-friendly environment with minimum administrative burdens. While the green transition remains super important, let's be clear on this, it won't be the sole focus. The commercial real estate sector, this shift could have several impacts. First of all, we might see a halt in the regulatory waves that have drained the resources from property companies, allowing them to finally focus more time on their core activities and business. Additionally, the completion of the Capital Markets Union will be high on the agenda, aiming to remove obstacles that prevent companies from being competitive within the EU. EPRA will clearly continue its efforts to address these challenges, particularly for property companies engaged in cross-border investments, which is becoming more the norm in Europe. All in all, ensuring competitiveness also means investing in necessary buildings and infrastructure, like data centers, to ensure the EU's strategic autonomy. Meeting the rising need for trustworthy data center facilities could open new opportunities and boost the growth across Europe, including our sector.
This episode is supported by LoopNet. LoopNet listed properties are 283% more likely to lease or sell. That's 283% more likely to find a tenant or buyer when listed on LoopNet. Help your commercial property be seen by the right audience at the right time in the right place. Be seen on LoopNet. Dominic, given everything that you've mentioned, what are some of EPRA's key objectives or recommendations to ensure that the importance of commercial real estate to Europe's economy and society is well understood going forward?
That's a very good question, Sarah. Today, with roughly 40% of incoming members of the European Parliament being new, and it's even over 50% in all particular domain, education will continue to be a top priority for EPRA. So we have developed a comprehensive policy manifesto for the upcoming legislature, organized around three main pillars. First one is prioritizing competitiveness over regulation in the EU equity market. Second is supporting the green transition. And the third and last but not least one, ensuring retirement security. So this manifesto, for the ones who are interested in looking at it, is available at webuildeu.com along with a new video. On top of that, our public affairs team collaborated with 17 European and national associations to create a unified industry recommendation for the upcoming legislative mandate. This collective effort allows us to engage at the highest political levels once the new commission is in place in the coming weeks. So we are also updating our flagship research paper with a peer association from the unlisted real estate sector in Europe called the INREF, which one will be highlighting the importance of commercial real estate in the European economy. So this paper will showcase how our sector is a key source of employment and economic growth and how it addresses urban living and environmental challenges. Finally, we also recently conducted a research project with the Amsterdam School of Real Estate on the impact of REIT regimes. The report demonstrates how REITs contribute to market growth, financial performance as well, and EU, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In essence, as always, EPRA is well equipped to raise visibility and educate policymakers about a sector, continuing our mission, which is to promote, develop, and represent the listed real estate sector in Europe and beyond our borders.
And Dominique, are there certain property sectors across Europe that are seeing the most growth potential right now? And on the flip side, where are you seeing the most challenges?
Oh, I would say in terms of growth, clearly the alternative sectors, although it doesn't mean that we do not expect any growth in the more traditional property sectors. So historically, the European real estate industry has been dominated by the traditional property sectors, offices, residential, retail, industrial. During the last decade, the industry has gone a notable shift towards other alternative sectors, and it's also the case in the US, supported by mega trends such as aging population, urbanization, and digitalization. Growth across Europe should derive from the less conventional sectors, but which are becoming more and more important, such as healthcare, self-storage, senior housing, student housing, data centers. Those sectors represent today 11% of the total European market cap. And according to our alternative property sectors report, which we published 2 weeks ago, they should represent 26% of the total European market cap by 2034, so in 10 years from now. However, this is still far away from the over 50% in the US, but I'm sure that one day we'll get there.
Great. And Dominic, can you just give us an update about the adoption of the REIT model across Europe? How do things stand now and what might be in store next?
As very well, developing REIT legislation takes time, in particular in Europe. So we are not the United States of Europe. But I think that after some proper work from the EPRA's public affairs team, but together also with the other colleagues, collaborating closely with our partners on the local level, we can expect some real positive progress soon. Let me give you 3 examples. First, let's start with Poland, where we have been operating for several years by participating to the first REIT event and negotiations ever. There is right now a REIT bill in the parliament, and it doesn't look too bad. I have been there together with our director of public affairs quite recently, speaking to the market, the main property companies, the stock exchange, policymakers, etc. And they are very positive today. There are signs on the market that we should get a Polish REIT law within the next 9 to 12 months. Second case is Romania, which is by far the most important country in Southeast Europe. There has been there also a REIT bill tabled, which is right now under discussion and up for vote in the first of the 2 chambers for September this year. Romania is having parliamentary elections in December, but nevertheless, we are expecting the law to be completed within the next 9 to 12 months. Can you imagine that 2 new REIT legislation within less than a year's time, and especially in covering the CE countries? That would be fabulous. On the other side, a thing that we were not much in favor of was a decision made around the Dutch FBI regime, which was the oldest REIT regime in Europe dating back to 1969. But also here, together with our local partners, and in this case here, there is a very effective Dutch REIT association consisting of EPRA members. We are expecting some positive news. So the current Dutch FBI regime, which was the local equivalent of a REIT regime, will be abolished for real estate as of 2025. So this effectively means real estate companies, which previously were excluded from paying corporate income tax, now have to pay around 26% corporate income tax on their fiscal profits from real estate based in the Netherlands. We do expect the newly elected government to be supportive of a new REIT framework for the Netherlands. There is a relatively high probability of announcement for a proposal for this new REIT regime to be announced on the 17th of September 2024, so which coincides with the first day of our annual conference. The current Dutch government today consists of 4 political parties, of which we know that 2 are strongly in favor of such a REIT regime, while the other 2 are unlikely to be strongly opposed to this new regime. So we will know more by September on the Dutch Budget Day, as I mentioned earlier, if this new government intends to implement a new REIT regime. So, in a nutshell, potentially great news in 3 countries will give, I would say, a great signal that Europe is doing quite well again.
And Dominique, EPRA will hold its annual conference in Berlin this September. What do you expect to be the main areas of discussion?
Yeah, so a conference in Berlin, which will take place from the 17th to 19th of September, is theme A Brave New World. This conference should inspire and challenge conventional thinking with some innovative content. The conference will, of course, address the shifting economic and geopolitics landscape too. There will be some sessions also focusing on how real estate can adapt to new reality with experts like Ian Shepardson, Neil Ferguson and Andrew Roberts leading the conversation. Energy transition will also be a major topic. So in that area, there will be discussions on how to pave the way for sustainable power, featuring leading experts like Graham Wheel. This aligns with the ongoing focus on reducing the environmental footprint of real estate and achieving net zero goals. Some panels will also delve into trends in this area, highlighting the importance of green governance and sustainable practices within the industry. And last but not least, the conference will also feature high-level networking opportunities like every year, investors panel, and this will enable us to share a future outlook for all the stakeholders of our industry.
Excellent. Dominique, thank you so much for your time today.
It's been a real pleasure, Sarah, and always very happy to collaborate with Nareit on a lot of initiatives. Thanks very much for having me today.
And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode of the REIT Report, please subscribe or leave a review on your favorite podcast platform.